Zarya, hold your side of the bags. I did not raise a lazy woman. Mom, my arms are numb. Can we please just get a cab already? Cab. You and this small complaining. If we had money, we would not be standing under the sun waiting for anybody. Excuse me. Zarya turns. A black sedan has slowed at the curb, windows lowering. I don't usually do this, but I had to stop. You're
I
stunning.
don't usually do this.
Thank you. If you don't mind,
But I
I'm
had to
actually
stop.
waiting for a car. I could
You're
have my
stunning.
driver take you both wherever you need to
Please,
go.
allow my driver
That
to
won't
take
be
you both
necessary.
wherever you need to go.
I have a boyfriend.
Thank you, but I'm
Her
actually
mother
waiting
steps
for
forward,
someone.
suddenly all
I have
smiles.
a boyfriend.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm her mother. Please forgive her. She's just tired from the heat. Oh, you're her mother? It's a pleasure. Your daughter has quite the presence. Zarya, this is Zarya. She's 23. 23. That's a beautiful age. Here, take my card. And this for a proper ride home. Please, no arguments. The mother's hand closes around the card and the folded bills before Zarya can protest. Thank you, sir. God bless you. The car pulls away. Zarya turns on her mother, disbelief written across her face. Mom, why would you take that from a total stranger? Stranger? Once we hold his card, he stops being a stranger. Did you see that car? That man is not just rich, he is old money rich. I don't care how rich he is. I told him I have a boyfriend. Boyfriend will not pay off this house. Boyfriend will not save us when the next bill comes. Look at us, Zarya, dragging bags in this heat because we cannot afford a car of our own. Are you not tired of this life? I'm tired of you sizing up every man's wallet before you even learn his name. One day you will understand. Beauty like yours does not last forever, and men like that do not come twice. Zarya says nothing. She doesn't know yet that the card in her mother's purse belongs to a man they call the ghost chairman, a man who has never once raised his voice, never once lost a negotiation, and is about to become the last person on earth she ever expects to save her life. If you want to see how far this goes, how a woman who once called him too old ends up owing him her life, stay close. Hit like, hit subscribe. It genuinely helps this story reach more people who need to see it. Let's find out together what he saves her from. The card sat on the kitchen counter for 3 days before Zarya's mother finally picked it up. She waited until Zarya left for her shift at the boutique, then dialed the number with trembling excitement, clearing her throat twice before the call connected. Good afternoon, sir. This is Zarya's mother. We met the other day, remember? The young lady you gave your card to. Of course. I remember quite well. I was wondering, sir, if you would honor us with your presence for dinner. Nothing fancy, just a home-cooked meal. My daughter mentioned she'd love to properly thank you for your kindness. There was a pause on the line, the kind that made her heart race. I'd be delighted. She hung up and immediately began rearranging the living room, pulling out the good tablecloth she saved for holidays, the one with gold trim that had survived 3 moves and 2 evictions. By 6 that evening, the apartment smelled of jollof rice and fried plantain. Do-Hyun arrived in a charcoal suit, no tie, cufflinks catching the light from the single working lamp in the hallway. He carried a bottle of wine and said nothing about the modest surroundings. Zarya came home to find him seated at their small dining table and stopped cold in the doorway. What is this? Her mother rose quickly, smoothing her apron. Zarya, don't be rude. Chairman Do-Hyun was kind enough to accept our invitation. I never invited anyone. I invited him. Sit down. We have a guest. Zarya's jaw tightened, but she sat, arms crossed, refusing to look at him directly. Do-Hyun, for his part, remained unbothered, complimenting the rice, asking polite questions about her mother's work, never once acknowledging the tension radiating off the woman across from him. Before he left that night, he pressed an envelope into her mother's palm. For the kitchen, he said simply. Nothing more. Zarya watched her mother's eyes light up like she'd found gold, and something cold settled in her stomach, the quiet certainty that this was only the beginning. The knock came before sunrise, 3 sharp raps that didn't ask permission. Zarya was still half asleep on Malik's couch when the door gave way and the small apartment filled with shouting voices and flashlight beams cutting through the dark. Federal agents. Get on the ground. Hands where we can see them. Malik shot up from the desk where he'd fallen asleep mid-trade, 3 monitors still glowing behind him. Zarya watched him freeze, watched something collapse behind his eyes as an agent yanked his laptop free and another began bagging hard drives, phones, a shoebox of cash from under the bed. Malik, what is this? What's happening? He didn't answer. He couldn't look at her. An agent read words she barely understood: wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, while another guided her, gently but firmly, out of the way as they cuffed him. This is a mistake. Tell them this is a mistake. Ma'am, step back please. Malik, say something. Please. I'm sorry, Zarya. I'm so sorry. They walked him out in his bare feet, past neighbors gathering in the hallway, phones already lifted to record. Zarya stood in the doorway of an apartment that no longer felt like anything, the cold morning air pouring in around her. She called his lawyer. No answer. She called the number on the arrest slip. Please hold. She called her mother, who picked up sounding almost pleased, already halfway to I told you so. Zarya hung up before her mother could finish the sentence. For 3 days she sat in that apartment surrounded by upturned drawers and unplugged cables, eating almost nothing, sleeping less. Friends stopped answering. Malik's name started trending online under a headline she couldn't bring herself to finish reading. The trader everyone admired for his quiet confidence was gone, and in his place was a case number and a photograph of a stranger. She didn't cry where anyone could see her. She simply went still, the way a house goes quiet after a storm has already taken the roof. Somewhere in the city, a phone rang for the man whose card still sat untouched in her mother's purse, but Zarya wasn't thinking about him yet. She was only thinking about how fast a life could be dismantled and how little warning the people living it are ever given. The courtroom smells like old paper and cold air. Zarya sits stiff in the front row, hands knotted in her lap, as the judge reads out numbers that don't sound real, dollar figures pulled from strangers who trusted a man she thought she knew. Malik doesn't look back at her once. His shoulders are folded in on themselves, a man already disappearing into what he's about to become. 17 years. The words land like a slammed door. Officers lead him away in silence. Zarya doesn't remember the drive home. What she does remember is the eviction notice waiting on the kitchen table, her mother's face gone pale reading it. That's when the black sedan appears again, parked across the street like it has always belonged there. Do-Hyun doesn't come to the door. A courier arrives instead with a folder, every debt marked paid in full. No note, no demand. Zarya calls the number she never threw out. Why would you do this? Because you needed it done, is all he says, voice even as still water. Days later, Malik calls from behind bars, begging for a visit before his transfer. Against her better judgment, she goes. He looks smaller in the visitation room, stripped of the confidence that once made her feel safe. I need you to do something for me, he says, voice low. Talk to him. Chief. Whatever he calls himself now. Get close, be sweet to him, see if he'll release something to help me start over. Everything's seized. I have nothing. Zarya stares at him, the request settling like a stone in her stomach. You want me to beg a man for money so you can rebuild your empire of lies? I'm asking you to survive with me. She leaves without another word, the 17 years of history between them collapsing into something unrecognizable, a stranger asking her to sell what little dignity she has left. That night she sits at her kitchen table and finally breaks, sobbing for a love that was never what she thought, for 17 years spent building a life with a man who saw her, even now, as a resource to be extracted. Do-Hyun doesn't call ahead. He simply arrives, and when she opens the door already crying, he doesn't ask what happened. He just steps inside, sits across from her, and lets the silence hold whatever she can't say out loud. She doesn't lean on him. Not yet. But when her shoulders finally give out, it's his shoulder she reaches for, offered without condition, without demand, the first thing in this entire wreckage that has asked nothing of her in return. The house felt smaller since the funeral talk started, every conversation circling back to the same worn plea. Zarya's mother sat propped against the pillows, a damp cloth on her forehead, her voice thinner than it used to be but somehow still sharp enough to cut. "Zarya, come sit by me." "Mommy, please, not this again. I am not trying to control you. I am trying to save you before I close my eyes for good. Don't talk like that. It is the truth. My pressure keeps spiking. The doctor said stress will kill me faster than any sickness. And what stresses me more than watching my only daughter throw away her future? Marrying a 60-year-old man is not my future. He is not just a man, Zarya. He is safety. He is a roof that will never leak, a name that opens doors, a bank account that will outlive both of us. You keep chasing feelings, but feelings do not pay hospital bills. Look at me. Look at what living without security has done to this body." Zarya's eyes stung. She had watched her mother ration medication for months, choosing between pills and groceries, pride keeping her silent until her own body forced the truth into the open. "Mommy, I'm scared. What if I marry him and it changes nothing? It will change everything. And if it does not work, if after 1 year you feel nothing, you walk away. 1 year, Zarya. Give me 1 year of peace before I go. Is that too much to ask of the daughter I raised alone?" Silence stretched between them, filled only by the soft hum of the oxygen machine in the corner. Zarya thought of Do-Hyun's quiet patience, his refusal to demand anything from her, and the ledger of debts her mother had quietly accumulated trying to keep them both afloat. 1 year, she finally said, the words tasting like surrender. "That's all I'm promising. 1 year, and if there's still nothing between us, I want out. No arguments." Her mother's hand found hers, trembling but triumphant. "You will not regret this, my dear. God will bless this decision." Zarya said nothing. She only stared at the wall, wondering if she had just signed away her freedom, or if somewhere in that year, she might actually find the peace her mother swore was waiting for her. 5 months had passed since the wedding, and the mansion still felt like a museum Zarya wasn't allowed to touch. Do-Hyun poured her tea himself, the way he always did. "You didn't eat much today. I'm not very hungry. You've said that every day this week. I'm fine. Really." He set the cup down in front of her, patient as ever, watching her the way a man watches something fragile he's afraid to hold too tightly. "There's a new bracelet in your room. I had it made in Milan. You don't have to keep buying me things." "I know I don't have to." She looked away first, the way she always did when his eyes lingered too long. It wasn't that he was unkind, that was the strange part. He was endlessly kind, endlessly attentive, endlessly present in a way she hadn't expected from a man his age, his stature, his reputation. And still, every night she found a reason to retreat to the far end of the house. Every morning, she found a reason to leave before he woke. "Zarya." "Yes? Can I ask you something and you can say no?" "Okay. Would you let me just lay my head on your lap?" "Nothing more. I just want a few quiet minutes where I'm not a chairman or a husband people whisper about. Just a man resting." She hesitated. The request was so small, so plain, that it unsettled her more than any gift ever had. Gifts she could return. Land she could refuse. But this quiet, human ask, she didn't know what to do with. "Sure." He lowered himself slowly, his head finding her lap like it was the first soft place he'd touched in years. She sat stiff at first, hands hovering, unsure where they belonged. Eventually, one hand settled near his temple, not quite touching. "You don't have to be so careful with me, Zarya. I don't know how to be anything else." He closed his eyes. "Then don't be anything. Just stay." The room stayed quiet after that, no music, no staff moving in the hallway, just her breathing and his. And for the first time since the wedding, the silence between them didn't feel like distance. It felt like the beginning of something she wasn't ready to name. Her mother arrives unannounced, sweeping through the front doors like she still owns them, eyes scanning every corner of the estate before she even says hello. "You look thinner. Are they not feeding you well in this house?" "Mom, I'm fine. I just wanted to talk to you about something." "Talk about what?" "Look at this place. Look at what you almost threw away for that useless boy." "Mom, please. Do-Hyun is kind. He's careful with me. He's never once raised his voice at me in 5 months. Then what is the problem? I don't love him. I've tried. I keep waiting for something to change, and it hasn't. I'm going to ask him for a divorce. Her mother's face goes still, then hardens into something sharper. Divorce? Have you lost your mind? You want to throw away everything I fought for? Everything you fought for. Not me. This was never about what I wanted. You ungrateful girl. Do you know what I sacrificed? Do you know what it cost me to put you in front of that man? I didn't ask you to sell me to him, Mom. Sell you? I gave you a future. You think love keeps a roof over your head? You think love pays for anything? That man is sick, Zarya. Sick. One day he closes his eyes and everything becomes yours. And you want to walk away from that now? You want him to die. That's what this is. You've been waiting for him to die. I want you to be smart for once in your life. I won't do this anymore. I won't sit here and let you count another person's days like they're a number on a check. You don't get to decide that. Not after everything I. Her mother's voice breaks off mid-sentence. Her hand flies to her chest, fingers curling into the fabric of her blouse. She staggers, reaching for the back of a chair that isn't close enough. Mom? Her mother's knees buckle. She goes down hard, her body striking the cold marble floor before Zarya can even close the distance between them. Mom, look at me. Somebody help. Please help her. The staff come running. Zarya drops beside her mother, hands shaking, pressing against a stillness that won't answer her. Mom, please. Please don't do this. Not like this. Not now. But her mother's eyes have already gone empty, staring past her at the ceiling, and the argument that started it all hangs unfinished in the air between them. The morning after the funeral, Do-Hyun found her sitting at the edge of the window, staring at nothing. He didn't ask what was wrong. He never had to. Whatever you need, tell me. I'll make it happen. A trip, a name change on the deed, anything at all to give you peace. I don't need anything, Do-Hyun. Then what do you want? She turned to face him fully, and something in her expression made his chest tighten before she even spoke. I want a divorce. The silence that followed stretched long enough that she almost repeated herself. He set down the glass he'd been holding, slow and careful, like the words needed room to land somewhere safe. Zarya, you just lost your mother. This isn't the time to. This is exactly the time. She's gone. The reason I married you is gone with her. I can't keep pretending anymore. You weren't pretending. Whatever you felt, it was real enough to stay 5 months. I stayed because she made me believe I owed her a future. I don't owe you a lie. He came closer, and for the first time since she'd known him, his composure cracked at the edges, not into anger, but into something quieter, something that looked almost like fear. Stay. Not because you have to. Because I'm asking you to. I can't. He nodded once, slowly, like a man absorbing a verdict he'd already expected. He didn't argue again. He didn't raise his voice. He simply walked to the study, and by evening, an envelope sat on the table beside her, deeds, account transfers, a folder thick with everything he owned worth owning. I'm not doing this to convince you to stay. I'm doing it because whether you're my wife or not, I need to know you'll never struggle again. She stared at the folder without touching it. Why would you do this after everything? Because loving you was never about keeping you. It was about making sure you never had a reason to be afraid again. He left the room before she could answer, and for the first time since she'd said the word divorce, Zarya felt the full weight of what she was walking away from, and what she might never find again. Zarya stood in the middle of the new house, keys still warm in her hand, and felt nothing but silence. The property was hers now, fully hers, signed over without a single condition attached. Every room smelled faintly of fresh paint and untouched furniture. She walked from one echoing space to the next, running her fingers along countertops she never asked for, past windows that framed a view she had no one to share it with. It was everything her mother had ever wanted for her. It was beautiful. It was quiet in the worst way. She sat down on the edge of a couch still wrapped in plastic and finally let herself think, really think, about the man she had left behind. Do-Hyun had never once raised his voice at her. Not when she snapped at him in the beginning, not when her mother tried to poison him against his own family, not even when she asked him for a divorce after everything he'd given her. He simply asked what she wanted and made it happen. No conditions, no guilt, no strings dragging behind the gift. Chick had loved her loudly and lied to her quietly. Her mother had loved her fiercely and used her completely. Do-Hyun had loved her without asking for anything back at all, and she had mistaken that silence for emptiness, when really it had been the steadiest thing in her life. She thought about the hospital, the way his hand hadn't let go of hers even while his own blood pressure spiked. She thought about the job he secured for her without being asked, the money he sent knowing she might never speak to him again, the way he still called her his wife even after she handed him divorce papers. Zarya stood up so fast the plastic covering crinkled beneath her. She didn't call a driver. She didn't call her mother because there was no one left to call. She drove herself back through the gates she once thought were a cage, past the staff who looked at her in surprise, straight through the front doors of the mansion she used to find so cold. Do-Hyun was standing near the window when she found him, and for the first time since she'd known him, he looked almost unsure of what to say. "I love you," Zarya said, before he could speak. "I don't know when it happened. Maybe it was always happening and I was just too proud to see it. I love you and I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't leave me. Not soon, not ever, if you can help it. Take your medication. Rest when your body tells you to rest. Fight to stay here with me, because I finally know what I want and it isn't a house full of things. It's you." Do-Hyun crossed the room and pulled her into him like he'd been waiting his whole life for this exact moment. "Then let's start," he said quietly. "A future. Children who will have your fire and my patience. I promise you, Zarya, I'm not going anywhere. If this story touched you the way it touched us writing it, show it some love. Hit like, hit subscribe. It truly helps this channel grow and keeps these stories coming. See you in the next one."